Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for new stories from Yellowcat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and let's get started. What happened at your workplace to cause mass quits, Part 3. Please be patient as this will take up half of my working career and 3 businesses. I work full-time in graphic design, but these days I mostly do pre-press work. My skill set has never wavered. I went from working in a variety of graphic design jobs to working in the family sign company where I do similar work. I started working there 2 years in. I was still young and definitely couldn't have run it myself at that point in my life, and that's okay, I knew that. My dad had run it successfully for 7 years and was looking to retire and sell after co-owning a successful advertising agency for 12 years. Eventually, they found a buyer. I was not getting myself into a loan, and I looked at the figures, and I would have had to borrow a lot and move the company and expand rapidly to cover the new debt versus profit, for which I did not have the sales connections for in the industry. Furthermore, there was no way I would pass up them getting the buyout than me, who would not have been able to come up with the money by myself. My parents were very much make-yourself from the ground up people. I gave up and decided to sell it so that I could focus on my own career. I made the decision to stay if the new owner asked me to because business had been going well and they could hire more staff. This guy, however, clearly didn't look at the numbers the way I did, and he had no idea about the industry because he didn't plan hires or grow his business successfully. It was strange that he had no intention of moving the place within 6 months, and I should have known when he started drinking constantly at work. I didn't quit straight away because I was making more money and he wasn't a real a-hole, just a drunk idiot. After finding another job for about a year, mainly because my parents' business kept me around because of their emotional attachment to me, but I realized I was stupid. I quit and discovered he hadn't paid for 6 months. In 3 months he closed, and the rumor caused him to lose his house as well. Blew it into the ground while genuinely inebriated. My fault is his upbringing. The man's next job in a small business was not much better. He was a corporate type. I estimated that I was handling half of the business workload because I knew what I was doing and had previously managed one of these stores because the previous owner was inebriated and nobody else had the "it's not my job" mentality. The other employee's attitude was only because they realized he was bad soon after starting work and were simply looking for a new job before leaving. I had only been there for less than 5 months when I handed in my notice, and the other 4 employees had left as well. What made me decide to leave? In addition, I handled all of the artwork, half of the pre-press, 70% of the printing, 50% of the manufacturing, and 30% of the on-site installation work. I also completed 70% of the quoting. Since I'm the guy who accomplished the most and have industry and graphic design qualifications, I must also want to be the cleaner. Nope, I might be able to help out at a good job, but to make matters worse, I get to go to better places. Because I have a strong work ethic, he must have thought I was a B. I didn't even hold the other guys responsible for his bad attitude and management for being lazy. Lastly, the next job. Much better, not taking on everyone's responsibilities. We also persuaded the boss to move his office down the hall to keep it private, even though he occasionally lets his anxieties spill over into the employees. During his 4 weeks of illness, everything at work went off without a hitch. He was taken aback, and his employees are reliable, who enjoy each other's company and their jobs, not with him though. Whoa, it's funny that they aren't being lazy and sneaking around on you. It's not perfect, but it's among the better places I've worked. If there isn't a pay increase soon, though, I might think about leaving once it runs out of quality work for my portfolio. Was working at a bar that stood alone in a larger corner. Since his early life recently took him abroad, the owner/boss was forced to resign, though, to be honest, it's hard to blame him. He received an incredible offer. We became one big company after merging with all the other bars. We were the only ones left standing. After that, we were defeated. There will be no more free drinks, alcoholic or non-alcoholic. However, prior to that, we were free to consume as much alcohol as we pleased, provided that we could still perform the job properly. A lot of greater pressure to turn a profit. A deadline for counting the merchandise at the end of the night. If it wasn't complete in time, the tip was withheld. This was a huge letdown. Previously, everyone was pretty laid back, and we didn't mind finishing our 12-hour shift a few minutes early. Being prevented from finishing the champagne bottles that were already open at the end of the evening. What a costly waste. We had to throw them away. All of that severely reduced our motivation, resulting in significantly lower revenue. Even though during the good times, we undoubtedly spent around €150 per evening on goods by ourselves. Thus, 4 or 5 seasons in, I was one of the crew members who quit the job. Several years later, I was there. Only half the cocktails we served back then are still available, and the bartenders have no idea how to make them properly. The bar turned really ass. Thus, they essentially replaced us with a few regular servers who lacked any bartending training. The company's mismanagement caused it to go bankrupt a year ago. Who would have thought that? I worked at a local warehouse that manufactured and shipped VoIP phone parts, cables, connectors, and other associated components for almost a year. I was responsible for driving a forklift, cutting and spooling cable, and assisting the packing crew with sorting, counting, and shipping out items. There'd been whispers that people will be laid off for approximately 6 months, but the union, which I and others were a part of and paid a monthly fee to, has assured us that we should not be concerned about it because there's no indications that any changes or layoffs are on the horizon. We all foolishly believed them and continued on with our lives as if nothing had happened. We were essentially sitting around for at least half of our shift doing nothing or trying to find other work to do. This happened within a couple of months of our orders beginning to decrease, and we were essentially doing nothing. When we were about 10 months into our employment, a large group of people were gathered together for a lunch or dinner meeting, and we were informed that we would all be laid off in 2 weeks with severance pay of approximately 4 to 5 weeks. The same union representatives who had assured us that we should not be concerned were present at that meeting. When we asked them about it, they refused to make eye contact with us or acknowledge any of our inquiries. I was one of nearly 230 employees who were let go during the initial round of layoffs. During that time, several other employees who'd been working for the company for more than 20 years made the decision to retire early, and employees from multiple other departments left for other employment opportunities elsewhere. In a second wave of layoffs, which occurred 3 months after I was laid off, another 150 people were laid off. A couple months after that, the warehouse was completely shut down. It was my understanding that after the second wave of layoffs, a large number of employees left their positions, which resulted in the company having to recruit additional workers. The company's initial plan was to relocate the remaining employees to other locations in order to assist with covering additional work, but nobody stayed behind to be relocated. Americans, what is your most horrific encounter with the Homeowners Association / Neighbors from H, Part 3? I lost water for no reason a week ago. I thought the water company was to blame because I never got an email, letter, note, or knock on the door from the HOA. When I called the water company, they said they didn't know why my water was off. When I went outside to see what was going on, I saw that a group of people were digging in someone's yard. It wasn't a professional water technician or whatever you'd call them. It was just some guys from the neighborhood. In fact, one of them lived right across the street from the hole. When I asked what was going on, they said the water would be back soon. It was after a few hours. After 3 days, the water stopped again. The guys working in the same area told me again that the water would be restored shortly when I went outside. I believe this was silly. They never called me to let me know this was going to happen, and this is the second time my water's been turned off for this reason. I called the city and asked if it was okay for random guys from the neighborhood to work on the water pipes that affect every house in the neighborhood. They said it was okay. It's true, even though it shouldn't be. I wrote to the HOA and asked what was going on. They replied, someone complained about low water pressure, so we're fixing it. They lied when they said they emailed, knocked, and left a note after I told them they never got in touch with me about this. I told them they never did this when I complained again. They wrote, well, a week ago we noticed people in hazmat suits going in and out of your house, and were very mean to me right away. There must be something dangerous inside that could hurt the other people in the neighborhood and make us have to let you go. It was obviously a threat telling me shut up and stop complaining or we'll use this against you. Okay, this is partly true. Two people were dressed in those white cleaning clothes that you'd wear over your clothes to keep them clean while you do dirty work. This is because there was mold on the carpet in one of my mouse's rooms, and I hired someone to get rid of it. Mold that wasn't deadly spread because something got on it under a bed and wasn't seen for a while. It was just green mold. They took it away when they got there. You told me to shut up, and I did. I don't want to be kicked out of my house. When I turned on the water again, I saw that my home's water pressure is still very low. All the water appliances upstairs are now only running at a slow drip, and it's hard to wash your hands if any other water's running in the house. There isn't enough water pressure upstairs for you to take a bath. The person who said they had low water pressure is now on the HOA board, I found out. They switched the water pressure from someone else's house to his, and I can't complain about how bad the pressure is because I'm afraid they'll kick me out. Hate HOAs. I had a few neighbors who were very annoying, but fortunately they did not engage in any crazy or violent behavior. Nevertheless, they were still very annoying, as if they had nothing better to do with their day than complain. I had this one upstairs neighbor in our apartment complain that I, a kid who was 10 years old at the time, was using a skateboard in our apartment. My mother proceeded to tell her that I did not have a skateboard, and then she accused me of having one hidden in the apartment and using it when my mother was not there. The Airbnb was a shack in the backyard of the house of the Airbnb owner, who was a couple with 2 children. The couple would constantly fight with each other in the backyard, which made it very awkward for me to get or leave home. On top of that, one of the children would open the door from the shack while I was there, which caused me to forget to lock the door even when I was inside during the day. I lived alone in the Airbnb for a period of 2 months. There was also a guy who would complain about every little noise that we made in our kitchen, even if it was just us getting water or washing dishes. This guy caused my mother a lot of stress at the time, and he even threatened us with a lawsuit that would get us out of the apartment. However, he eventually gave up and moved out after his lawyer friend and a judge told him that he had no case. The subsequent neighbors never complained, and we got along great. They gave me this rental property when they died. The house has been there since before the neighborhood next to it was built, so it's not part of that neighborhood's HOA. It's been agreed upon several times with the last renters and my parents. At the 3 entrances to the property, we put up gates because we didn't want people to come in while we were fixing things up to move in. An old man came to visit us a month after we were done. He opened our back gate because the front one was locked to give us the welcome to the HOA packet. I told him that since we don't live in the neighborhood, the HOA doesn't apply to our home. He huffed and says, "Yes, I am, since my house is right next door." I told him again, in a polite way, that he couldn't come onto my property without my permission. He laughed and said there were no trespassing signs, so he was free to do what he pleased. He left in the end. The next day, we put locks on the gates and signs that said, "Do not enter." The next thing we knew, we were getting letters from the HOA saying we were breaking their rules. In the letters, they also wrote about things going on in our backyard that only someone looking over the fence could see. After the 5th note that threatened eviction, I called the number listed and told the woman what was going on. She said that the HOA president had said we were and was the one reporting us, but all we had to do was show they were wrong and they would not fine us and leave us alone. After getting the papers together, I took them to the next meeting and showed them that I was right. The old man then went crazy and told us it didn't matter, we still had to follow his rules and change the things he wanted. He seemed angry because we fixed the fence and put up gates that stopped him from going where he wanted to go on his walks. The gates and fence also stopped his family from taking a shortcut to the pool. The backyard had things he didn't want to see from his second-story balcony, and the trees we planted and the new fence kept him from seeing the whole property. He was so mad that he had to be taken to a different room. I left right away and haven't heard anything since. It's amazing how entitled some people are. If you want to watch the part 2, click the link here. We're very, very glad to see you all in the comments again. Many thanks for your support.